team. Good news is Tim's pretty terrible this game, so that's the truth.
Very proud. They played a very sharp, very on top of their game Eclipse today, and really excelled in nailing, unfortunately, 07. When they gave him that little bit of breathing room, he took it.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Community WGLNA show. I'm Tim Hamlet, and that is Ted Arundel, and it's day 11. Wow, it's been a while.
It has, Tim. It's if it seems like we haven't been on for a few days, we haven't been on for a few days. But here's our reasoning. Thursday night, we had those set of matches, which we're going to review first, and then we had Saturday's matches. So we have actually 6 matches to cover. And then for tomorrow night, we have 2 matches. We're going to talk about what can happen there. We're going to look at the rankings. We're going to look at players and what's going on, because there's been some changes, some very important and very big changes for the teams. Now, let's start out what happened back on Thursday, and way back in the time known as Thursday. Actually, you had, for the first time in the WGLNA this season, we had only 2 matches. Why is this important? Well, this allows all the teams playing on a night, in this case just 2 teams, will get broadcast, which is good. Because if you've watched some of the matches, everyone, including myself, have been, yes, I wish they had that match on instead of this match. Mm-hmm. But because of agreements with the teams and hard work for everyone from ESL, and yes, ESL works incredibly hard, as well as you and the Watt side and the teams, they come up with a schedule of who gets broadcast and who doesn't. And they don't know at the beginning of the season who's going to be the big match or not or anything like that. So they have to be fair. So that's what they've tried to do. That being said, the matches this Thursday, the first round match was Top Tier versus 07. Both Tim and I looked at this match, and we kind of figured out that we both picked Top Tier to go over 07. Tim had it at, you thought it would be 5-4, Tim?
I did. I thought it would be much closer than it was. Rip me.
Yep. Well, and 5-3. Now, some people may have been making fun of us because we always say 5-4 on matches we think are close, and we'll be dead wrong. Fair enough. We have no problem admitting to that. That being said, you look at the 5-1 match for Top Tier over 07, and it started out split. They split Muravanka. Yes. And there were some interesting moments and issues that were going on there, but nothing really stood out. But what stood out to me was Battle 4 with the ace happened. When Top Tier took an ace over 07, that made me sit up and go, okay. And then they did the same thing in Battle 5. They got another ace. And for me, yes, we understand that you don't want to play Top Tier on cliffs. What made me want to ask what's going on here is, why did 07 not ban cliffs? Statistically,
no, it's interesting. We can show, this is new.
Yeah,
we can show the map bans. That's nice. 07 banned Ghost Town, Top Tier banned Mines, Himmelsdorf was banned by 07, and Top Tier then banned Prokhorovka. Now that's understandable, considering one that most stands out to me there is the ban of Himmelsdorf.
Yeah. Now, Tim, if you can do me a favor and go to statistics, go to stats, and then click on map stats and click on cliff. I want to show you something. And everyone out here, the scary thing. Scroll down to by team.
Map stats.
Click on cliffs.
Cliffs.
And scroll down to by team.
Oh my.
Yep.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's rough, guys. And yes, that includes these 2 matches that were just played, but Top Tier plays cliffs very well. Very, very, very well. I mean, you can just see statistically, they had 6 battles attacking, and they've managed to win 5 of those. They're 100% on defense in the 6 battles they played on defense. This is their map.
Wow.
And even before Thursday's matches, this was their map. Even if you look at Proc and Himmels, where Top Tier is strong, they're not as strong as this map. So I'm going to guess there might have been some miscommunication or just confidence by 07, because 07, but if they look at their stats, they've had 8 matches on there, 6 before Thursday, and they still had a pretty low, situation for that. Now,
Oh, wait.
I that's what I want to talk about is these teams. You're starting to see which teams really are hitting checking all the boxes, and top tier was licking their chops when that wasn't on the map ban because of these
Oh,
statistics
yeah.
we're looking at right now. Because then you had with that ability to take them on, they cut them to pieces, and that's the reason that was their map. Now then they went on to steps where they got that first ace, so now they're on 2 aces for the whole maps, and then they'd win on steps. A pretty close match near the end with its ex-soldier and Pompous being alive, but they did it.
It was close. I thought
Yeah.
it was going to go the other way for a minute.
Well, that's the thing. It's '07. This was also the night where we had Dr. Meadowhawk, where he
Right.
got on and joked about having rivalitis and hoping to get a shot of APEX. Those shots didn't kick in time.
No.
And it's hard because I think this is a night that you're going to look back and see how critical this is because I think top tier played really well. Every match they played well. The one match that 07 really showed up for was when they won on Miravanka, and I think that might have been the one match where top tier was poor, as far as just their overall performance, if you will. And they'd probably agree with that. But if you look at the top scores for points and everything like that, Pompous, Exits, Ex-Soldier, Okaku,
Should've-
Marascarita, Delph.
I should have picked Pompous. Come on.
Yeah. But only 289 points to him, so it wasn't that big of a loss if you did. But guys, make sure that you're looking at what this team has done. Even if we take fantasy out of it, they beat 07, and yes, 07's not on their top foot right now, and in a way, top tier is going the other direction. But that sets up some interesting situations. This would catapult them to suddenly being in a 1 to 2 point race for second. So keep that in mind as we head to Saturday, which we'll be doing in just a second. The other match of the evening that I think was everyone kind of guessed what would happen with this one because it was Aquatic M60s versus Apex. Aquatic M60s had a 4-game winning streak, was playing their best games that they had, but I think when they started driving around, I think they practiced with Apex, which I do not always think is a healthy thing to do because if you're used to getting your
Yeah, it's
Tim?
debatable. It's debatable. Yeah, you want to practice with Apex at some point. It's good for Aquatic M60s. They get to, have a decent challenge every time they go out. And for Apex, too. I mean, if you're going to pick a team to practice with, don't do it against, I hate to say it, but since they're at the lowest, don't do it against Rival. Don't practice with Rival. Practice with Eclipse. Practice with Aquatic M60s. Practice with, yeah.
Yeah. And I understand this is a very close league, and sometimes you have to make those decisions. But in a way, I wonder if that got into the heads of Morphic and Felix in their planning and what they're preparing for, because there's no doubt how confident Apex came into this match because they're that good. Now, there were some moments. There were some moments, as there always are in league matches, where you look at a team and suddenly look at a situation and go, oh, they're going to get them. They'll get a match out of this. And when looking at this one, the closest was Dodoma taking on Marsh in a 1v1, an Object 416 versus a Bat Chat. It was close, but Dodoma is one of the best 1v1 players out there, historically speaking.
Yes.
If WGLNA ever has a Hall of Fame, Dodoma's going to be in that first class, or should, because he's that good. So that was probably the closest chance. Other than that, though, you had Ace in Battle 1, and the last 2 battles, they lost just 1 tank. Apex just lost 1 tank. Now, one can say this is a combination of the 07 not being able to find their feet, as well as just the Aquatic M60s not being able to find their feet, but they never got out of the starting blocks. They never did anything that they've been so successful with. They didn't have a chance to get off what they were looking for, and that's something that I think a lot of people, when they're looking at these teams, don't always think about is if you're suddenly going, well, we don't stand a chance against these guys, you're 50% beaten right there.
Right.
Psychologically speaking. Now, I understand, and I'm willing to bet Tim does too. Facing against Apex has got to be daunting because they have some of the best players out there, and if I was gonna if I was asked to pick the top 5 players in the league right now, at least 3 of them would be from Apex, and if not 4, just based on the way they're playing with Ox,
Right.
Wally, and the strength of play for that whole team is just awesome right now. But a 5-0 win for Apex. Someone told me the other day, "Gee, that's boring." I said, "Have you watched them play?" And he came back and said, "No, I haven't." I said, "Watch them play and learn something, because you're going to learn isolations, you're going to learn counterattack,
Right.
you're going to learn timing." Apex does that better than anyone else right now. And as we move into Saturday's matches, one of the things that Comps did mention at the Saturday matches was that as much as they need to get past the regional, they've always had that golden ring of the grand finals in the back of their heads. So this is a team that's preparing to take on the world. And unfortunately for some of the teams, the WGLNA is just in their way. And I like that. I like that sense of confidence that's there,
Right.
and I don't doubt them. But this is the WGLNA. Anything could happen. So that's pretty exciting for me as well, because we want the best team to show up to represent NA. We really do. We want to get
Absolutely.
there. They took 3 matches in a row off of Kazna. I have a feeling they'll do better at grand finals. But we're gonna have to wait on that. So we move to the matches on Saturday. And Tim, were you able to see any of those matches? I know you're working loads right now.
Oh yeah, I was able to catch some of them. The one that I really wanted to watch wasn't aired, unfortunately.
Yep. And again,
But-
guys, scheduling happens well in advance, so you can't say, "Well, what about this?" I mean, they would have had to guess who would be where at the season, then no one would have got that. Outside of Apex and Eclipse, no one would have figured out where people were standing right then and there. But did you catch Rival versus Dare?
I did. That was an amazing match. I thought it was going to be closer. Honestly.
I did too. Again, what we're seeing here is Dare continues to get more confidence, because the last time they played was on Tuesday, and they lost to top tier. So this match versus Rival was exactly what the doctor ordered for Dare. And if you look at the match and you look at what was played and how they played, there were some matches that you just knew right away who was going to win, and then there's other ones. Mactap Putin was in a 1v2 and killed them both.
Right.
And it was one of those situations where you're like, really? Again, Mactap Putin, one of the first, if we ever have a Hall of Fame, he'll be in there. One of those guys, if you look at that team roster and say, who would you want to be in a 1v2 situation, I'd probably put Mactap at the top. And that's no disrespect to Aggressor or My Little Putin, just based entirely on experience. I like Mactap. And I mean, would you disagree with me, Tim? Can you think of anyone else on that side who could really, not that Aggressor couldn't as well, but Mactap's get the championship experience and everything else behind him.
He's got so much experience. He was, I believe, team captain back when I
Hashtag are you?
and then team refuse.
Yep.
Man, that was such a long time ago. Making me feel old.
Thanks, Tim. I feel old now. Yeah, that's great. But more important, Dare was able to finish off Simple Tankers, refused to give them any points at all. And that in itself is important, is they cut him off and they refused to give him any sort of momentum. And that was that. It was a clean victory, solid play, just what you'd expect from Dare. And it gets them back on a positive foot. They have a victory now. And they're also just points away from second place. They're 1 point off. But by getting that win, they still have a match at hand, which is going to be vital for them as well.
Yes.
The next match was Top Tier versus Valence. Okay, this was interesting. Guess which map Valence banned first, Tim?
Cliff.
Yes.
Of course.
Yep, they banned Cliff right away. And Top Tier responded by banning one of Valence's best maps, Steps.
Oh yeah.
Valence responded by banning Prokhorovka, another good Top Tier match. And Top Tier took out Runeberg, probably because not because Valence is particularly great at it, but there's been some victories, and Top Tier probably wants to continue to work on strats for it, maybe. Not 100% sure. But the first match was Ghost Town, and we saw just really strong play from Top Tier again. Isolations, getting on top of players, doing everything they needed to do to make sure that they won. Regardless of...
Oh man, look at Ogako.
Yeah. Well, he was their designated Kravagnin. He's their heavy player, and he just played his pants off. He had 130 fantasy points, 2,700 damage. But Pompous in a T57 heavy, when a tragic loss is a good friend of Tim and I's favorite tanks, got 3,100 damage. I'm gonna bet that there were some reset shots by Agaku that helped him out in the points department.
92 defense points. That'll
There
do
we
it.
go. That'll do it.
It's important to note, guys, that with the way the fantasy score rankings worked out, the cap points and the defense points are very, very, very highly weighted. Much more so than damage. Even the 2700 damage that Akaku got, you can see here, got him 13.5 points, but the 92 defense points translated to 73 points in one match. Wow.
But when you're looking at the different form of attack and defense as WGLNA presents, you need to get those resets. If you don't, you lose. So I like the fact that it's as important, if not more important than damage, because it shows how teams can win by being clever and capping out, but you can be just as clever and just as effective in resetting. So fantastic play by Aghaku, and just great play overall. I mean, to go up 2-0 and then it went to 3-0 because you had you had Ghost Town. I take that back. It was 2-1 because on Himmelsdorf, there was some interesting play from what I heard. We didn't see this match,
right.
But from what I heard, Valence were able to counter early and isolate the E100s for top tier. When you isolate
with the tanks that they have, oh boy.
Yep. And by doing that, they picked up their first win, and that's exactly what they needed. Then to add the kick in again, they took the second match to suddenly tie it up 2-2. That's awesome for Valence. Strong play. Why I think they are strong on Himmelsdorf. If you look at the setup, G-Forcer, Zone Delta, Urtai. Again, 3 of those guys that former Elevate. Elevate used to be really strong on Himmelsdorf. So they know the strategies which work and which ones don't know how to. Urtai is a beast on it.
Right.
He may not have had loads of points if you look at the point setup and everything but that didn't mean that he was any less of a player. And because it was a Saturday, guys, you'll notice some people were there and some people weren't. One person who wasn't there for Valence was Static.
Right. That was notable.
Yeah. And it probably hurt some people's fantasy, but more important, did that play into Valence not getting the best out of it? But strong play by after the match wins, as we talked about on Himmelsdorf, and the likelihood that some of those strats that were so well for Elevate, when they were strong on Himmelsdorf, may have been translated into how they beat top tier. They match went on to Muravanka, and I really think top tier is becoming kind of a Muravanka specialist because they've won some matches on it. Now, Tim, if we swing back over to statistics again.
Yes.
Now I'm pretty sure I remember this right, and I'm hoping I did. I'm not dead wrong. But looking at the strats right here, top tier is a 53% win rate, which isn't bad as far as splits goes. But they have they don't win on attacking. They only have a 25% win rate on attacking, which is about average because I think someone said 70% right now, between 60 and 70%, and an 80% on win rate. But the teams that are better than them, that are above them, Apex, Aquatic M60s, Eclipse, and Dare. The teams that are below them in a massive way. Now, some have only had 3 battles like Valence, so they're not as familiar with it, but their loss rate is so much greater than that. I mean,
right.
They've lost a lot of matches. But that being said, that's probably where top tier felt confident, and that's why they threw those matches in there. And we ended up, at the end of the day, having those wins right there for top tier. And we kind of picked this one. We knew this would be top tier's match. And Tim, you thought it would be 5-3, and I thought it would be 5-2. It's really close, and I think the map picks did influence some of it.
Yes.
But we're moving on to the next match, and this is a match that Tim was pretty excited for.
I think slightly is a bit of an understatement.
Now, for the record, Tim right here is a Eclipse fan, and he's more than happy to. He stated that time and again for folks out there that he's a pretty big Eclipse fan. This was, I thought, a very big test for them. I thought it was going to be. I gave the upset to Aquatic M60s at 5-4 because I thought it would be. This would be the sort of match that Aquatic could really sink their teeth into, and Eclipse had announced earlier in the week that no Vetro.
Yes.
Okay, so what we first thought would be Master Pupil will come in, right?
Right.
And then they announced their roster, and no Master Pupil wasn't starting. Now it was a weekend. We don't know. Master Pupil's pretty busy with different things right now.
Right.
So instead of being in Drock, better known as Drockcab last season, one of my favorite, I think one of the more underrated players out there last season, because he came up with some really important plays during big matches for Eclipse. So I knew they'd be fine with Drock. But if I was Aquatic M60 and saw that they didn't have to face Vetro or Master Pupil, I'd be salivating. This is not
Yeah.
you really want to take advantage of it and get a hold of it with both hands. But right out of the bat on Maravanka, Eclipse pulls off the win, back to back to go up 2-0. But this is what I find interesting. You go into Cliff, the third battle, back to back wins by Aquatic M60s. Okay. Aquatic M60s beating Eclipse on Cliff. I will bet you the next time Eclipse plays top tier, Eclipse going to be banned.
Just Cliff's gonna be banned for Aquatic M60.
A lot of teams, yeah.
For top tier. Yeah, and this the Apex's map too. So
yep. Well, so we're going into 2-2 in the battle 4, and what happens on Cliff? AM60s win, so it's 3-2. And right there, you could probably hear Dare Rising sit up and go, "Really?" Because any point loss by Eclipse here would mean that they would go in second place, which is pretty important, especially when you're looking at the matches, which we'll talk about shortly. But suddenly everyone's sitting up going, "Oh, okay, here we go. This is interesting." And as both Rue and Rockstar were talking about in match, the whole flavor of the league shifted for that one match to go, okay, what happens if they lose? Or even go lose a point in overtime? Because then that would, go into a direct tie with Dare Rising, who already have the win. So it gets complicated. And suddenly you're like, oh my gosh. So, but on the next match, so up 3-2, you're thinking, let's see what's going to happen. Aquatic M60s had at that time, that was their. Okay, so they're up 3-2. Prokhorovka on the reverse side of Prokhorovka with Eclipse on defense. They won. They didn't just simply win. They won. They dropped one tank, a Batchat, an Exo's Batchat, and just hammered them. Yeah, but that's fine. I mean, Exo doesn't care as long as the team wins. If he fits a role, that's what the team concept is. And then on Ghost Town, oh boy, Ghost Town is Eclipse's map versus Aquatic M60s.
Always been Eclipse.
Yeah, and they played it very well. They just got the 5-3 win, so they're exactly where they want to be. But this should, shake it up and make things more interesting to them. And one of the things that was announced before matches was Ledef announced that this would be his last match with 07 on Saturday. And then after that, he announced that Ledef was going to be going to Eclipse.
Oh,
now, why is it such a big deal? Also, in the interviews, which we'll get to the next match shortly, Comp said that Vetro from Eclipse was going to Apex. So what Eclipse is trying to do is replace probably one of their statistically best players on the team with another really strong player. I think it's a pickup. It's a strong pickup and a win, but we have to see how he integrates. We've seen time and again taking great players and putting them on good teams does not always make for cohesive integration. It comes up short sometimes. Tim and some other people that we talked to a fair amount were like, it'll be fine. I hope it's fine, but we have to wait and see. We can't make this assumption that it's going to work automatically. And I really hope Eclipse doesn't try to stake the, Ledef and stick him in a Vetro-shaped, like a Lego.
I don't think Eclipse is that.
No, I don't think either, but they have to get used to him playing. We have to know how many times they've played with him as individuals and how comfortable they are, because we've seen in the past, you put on some great players, it doesn't always create a positive integration. This is not a knock on either him or on Eclipse, but we've seen it happen enough that we want proof. We want to be able to see the match and what's going to happen with Ledef in there. I personally think he'll be success, but how quickly will he be success? Unlike Apex, which we'll talk about in a minute, and their situation, Eclipse is in a dogfight for second place. They want that bye desperately because anything can happen in playoffs, and they don't want to be knocked out by having the worst night. So the tension will be higher for them. Let's phrase it that way. But it's a good win for them on Saturday. They get the win. Strong play by No Nick, by Tigers, photo finish, Drock.
Well
if you
done,
would play them And fantasy, Drock got 322.7 points coming off the bench and not having played a single game this season. But he's their training buddy. He's a great player. Do not doubt these guys who are on the bench. I've played with
No.
Meadowhawk. Tim has played with some of the bench guys before. They are as sound as can be and strong players and will smash you to tiny, tiny little bits when you're playing against them. Tiny. And
They'll smash you to
they're
tiny
pros.
bits and make you dance on top of Legos. How about
Pretty
that?
much, yeah. It's evil. But they're great players, and Drock came in and proved that. Strong play for him. Congrats, Drock. Congrats to Eclipse on what could have been a tough match. And I don't know, Aquatic M60s, I thought this was a great opportunity for them. It didn't turn out being the way that they wanted. And then we went into the final match of the evening with Apex versus 07. Why this is important is Apex wins on Saturday night. They lock in first place, the top seed, and that the automatic buy. So they got that on Saturday with a win. If you're expecting a surprise or for me to draw it out, no. Apex is just that good right now. There were a couple moments in this match where I saw where 07 could have picked up wins.
Right.
Specifically, there was a 1v2 with let me double check who that was. It was near the end of Prof. Korovka with Nitz and Ox Mathis. Nitz was down to like 4%. Ox had about 60-70% in his IS7. And I believe it was Makos in the bat chat near the end. I could be wrong. I have to double check on that. And Makos bounced a shot on Ox Mathis. If he would have gone straight for Nitz and traded his hit points to finish killing him off, taking a shot from Ox, he might have stood a chance. If he would have just focused on killing Ox and then running away, better chance there from some distance, that might have worked too. Instead, he went in and it seemed like there was some hesitation, and this is on Battle 2, and it ended up going from him almost having full hit points to him getting blown up by Nitz. And again, this is a fantastic player, but it was a situation 07 could have won, but were denied by Apex. And that's happened a lot so far this season, where they just, Apex will be on the ropes, but then some find a way to deny their opposition. Now, the maps, there was cap wins on Runeberg by Apex, which a really smart move. They played a double mouse strat that ended up working for them. Wally got way deep in that the wedge that happens in the north cap on Runeberg. But I think, in a way, Apex is experimenting with strats now. Because I haven't seen him play the double map mouse before. I think they're trying to see what works for them and what doesn't. And they're at a state right now where even if they drop a match or two, they are confident they can pull themselves back up to win. So they're treating this almost like experimentation now, which is even more terrifying when you're taking on Apex. Because they just are that good. In North America right now, if you're visiting us and you're from Europe and you're wondering how good is Apex, I'm going to have to check my map, but if this is week 11, they have 55 points. Matches that they've won during the season. They've only lost 10. And of those 10, 6 of them came from one team, and that was Eclipse. I take that back. 7 of them came from one team, and that was Eclipse over 2 matches. So to give you an idea, that means you take out that one team, and the best the rest of the league can do is 3 matches off of them. 3. Which is why we think they're scary. But they're professionally run. They're well organized. They're very focused. They've got this really strong calling dynamic now with Wally kind of, I think, coming with general ideas, but there seems to be, when you go in and hear them talking, some different dynamics playing in there too. So again, another victory, and that's pretty awesome. And let's look at the stats specifically on placement of teams right now and what things look like going into this coming week. Because if you look at the teams right now, you have, let's see, at the top, Aquatic M60, who sit on 32 points. Even if they lose all the rest of their games.
Apex.
Sorry, Apex at the top.
Aquatic M60s wishes they had 32
Yeah, they
points.
were my mistake. I spoke wrongly words. But Apex is on 32 points. Eclipse is on 20 points. Even though Eclipse has 4 matches left, they could win all of them. They'd still lose the tiebreaker because they've lost twice to Apex. But let's look at the race as it breaks down. It breaks down almost 3 sections. You have Apex, who are in and are thrilled about that.
Right.
Then you have Eclipse, Dare Rising, top tier, who are 2 point. Eclipse is 1 point ahead of them, but 2 points. either way, either drop someone further back or leapfrog as Eclipse. So this is going to be interesting, and we'll get into that more in a second. And then you have Aquatic. Aquatic's only 4 points back, but they should be, I think, focusing on trying to strengthen their play as much as strengthen their place.
Right.
Because 4 points behind them is 07. 07's in a pretty strong place to get the last playoff position. Wouldn't you say, Tim?
Yeah. You can do a lot, and 07 can certainly do a lot, but
With a
they got
4-point lead on Valence. Valence would need to win 2 matches cleanly to really make it interesting. Or 1 match and then lose in overtime. It becomes a lot of permutations. And when you look at who Valence have left to play with 4 matches remaining, they have to play Rival. There's potentially 3 points if you want to be. That's the best chance for 3 points. But then they play Dare, Eclipse, and Aquatic M60s.
Yeah.
Those will be rough matches. And to get 2 wins out of that are possible against any of them. But the likelihood is it's not in their favor. Let's phrase it that way. But again, Valence has some experienced players, and they could put the pressure on. But that last group right now would be the third group is 07 and Valence fighting for that last playoff spot. What makes things incredibly interesting and fascinating to me right now is Tuesday's matches. On Tuesday, you have a match that I think everyone should tune in to watch, and that is Top Tier versus Eclipse.
This is going to be interesting.
Yes.
Especially watching what maps are going to get banned. Because there's some pretty good maps for both teams.
It is some interesting maps. It is going to be some interesting situations. And if people are back there wondering, well, what happened the last time they played? Well, last time they played was sort of a declaration by Eclipse because Top Tier was up 4-2.
Uh-huh.
Let me repeat that. They were up 4-2, and then Eclipse fought back and won the next 3 matches to win 5-4. That's how tight these 2 teams can be. Playing to this, you also have Letif coming to his team for the first time. And knowing Tigers and Type 1 Diabetic, they're going to be practicing like mad between now and tomorrow. They're just going to keep practicing and practicing and practicing to try to get Letif comfortable. It's logical sense for them to do that as much as they possibly can. Because here's what the math breaks down onto, and just follow me with this, guys. If Eclipse loses straight up 5-2, 5-3 against Top Tier will jump up to 22 points. They will be tied even if Dare Rising wins for second place. That would drop Eclipse. Eclipse would have to hope that Dare Rising would lose in their upcoming match, which is until Thursday. So
good luck with that.
It's so tight right now that every single one of these matches is key because once they get by each other, think of it, if you beat the team in front of you, it's like baseball. It's worth 6 points because you're denying them 3 points and you're giving yourselves another 3 points lead. So, and then it gets more interesting. If Eclipse loses in sudden death overtime, they're tied with Top Tier. But because Top Tier had beaten them, then it goes to the secondary things and it gets confusing. I mean, everyone says it gets confusing because both teams will have split 1 apiece. And it may even go to attacking time. And Cliffs gets, I believe on Cliff, Top Tier had a really good time against them the first time they played. It can get messy. But that's what I mean. This whole thing is messy. And then if Dare Rising comes and picks up 3, they jump into second, surpassing these 2. Messy. However, it all comes down to it's up to these 2 teams on Tuesday to prove how bad they want it and how well they can play together. I think Top Tier can beat Eclipse.
They can.
They're strong place. They like that form of counterattack and parry and focus fire. The same thing that Eclipse has been known for in the past. But Top Tier also has Rude Awakening, a fantastic strategy guy. Tigers is coming up really hard now that he's taken over calling, and you can see the improvements in the different strengths he's brought to the team. Who will win? This is rough. This is a hard call for this one.
Right.
I think this is where you load up. You should have 4 players to pick guys. Pick 4 from this match. Don't shake your head. Yes, take 4 guys from this match. Or 4 guys from one team and 3 guys from another. You could take the following match. It's Rival versus Apex. So you could take 1 from Apex if you really want to. But I think...
No.
Tim, would you agree with me?
No. I'm not doing that. Why would I pick somebody from Apex when that's going to be a 5-0? Sorry,
Well,
rival.
because Oxes in the past has scored 400 fantasy points in 5-0s.
Yeah, it's true.
That's a safe bet or a safe player. However, I think it's loading up on this match would be very good. Who should we pick, Ted? Okay, Ted and Tim. Who should we pick? Well, looking at this matchup, looking at top tier.
Before you say that, interesting note. Last time top tier played Eclipse, the map bans were Ghost Town and Mines by Eclipse, and Ruinberg and Steps by top tier, and they played Cliff.
And can we guess what happened?
Top
They
tier
split
beat.
it?
Top tier
Yeah.
beat. Yeah.
So we should expect. I'm going to bet you'll see Ghost Town and Cliffs banned. I think those are safe bets, wouldn't you say, Tim? Because
Ghost Town, Cliffs, maybe Himmelsdorf.
Yeah, and I don't know what the fourth one Eclipse would pick to ban. Prokhorovka maybe because of the strong play, but I don't know. Let me look more into the stats, folks, and I'll let you guys know later on. But when this is going to be so tight, but if you're looking at top tier, who should you pick? Exits right now is averaging 47.6 points a game. That's really strong. Okaku is the same in a heavy, but it's hard to tell which matches will be his big matches and which ones won't be. X-Soldier's been playing pretty consistently, another 45-point per game guy. Muriel Scarata. So you have Delph didn't play spectacularly on Saturday. What does that mean? Well, if you want to pick him again, that's great. But you have 5 guys, I think, who are pretty good picks for that team. Exits, Pompous, Delph, Okaku, or Muriel. Would you agree with those?
Yeah, I'd say that's a solid pick.
With X-Soldier as a dark horse.
Right. It really, when it gets closer, I might take a look at who has picked who and try to vary a bit from.
Yeah.
Because
that makes sense.
Everyone's picking Muriel. We all know that.
Yeah. As this is like everyone's going to be picking photo finish and more than likely let up on the other side.
Yeah, and even I'm picking let up. Although he got transplanted, a rose transplanted to a rose.
Yes, but horticulturally, if you take a rose, put them in a new rose patch, they can die pretty quickly too if they're not careful.
That's a good point.
It takes careful handling. Let's phrase it that way. But Ledif, strong player, safe. The only iffy is how is he going to make it. I'm going to bet on Ledif that he'll be fine and he'll get a lot of points. Photo finish, pick him. No, pick him. Don't shake your head. Pick him now. Okay, thanks. He's a solid a bet. And if Ledif struggles, the guy who's going to pick up the slack will be photo finish. Would you agree with that assumption?
Oh,
Tim?
yes. And
Okay.
I wonder if they've released the lineup.
I think it's too early right now. I think T1 Diabetic is another good pick. He's been 43.8. But remember, guys, he had points. Some of his averages a bit dropped because earlier in the season he was calling or part of this group call thing, and his scores weren't that great. But the minute it went to Tigers calling, T1 jumped up because now his focus was only the game rather than having to call at the same time. No Nick and Exo aren't bad picks either, but I think the 4 guys you should look at would be Letta, Photo Finish, T1 Diabetic, and No Nick. Those are safe ones. But if you want a dark horse, Tigers.
Right.
He's had some big
Tigers has
scoring
always
games.
done great, yeah.
He has. Well, he's disproving that callers can't get high scores rule, just like Milo Putin has lately too. So, and if you look at it, Letta's been picked 57.55% of the time. A lot of people are going to pick him.
Yeah.
Probably me too, just because you don't want to lose out in the points. Photo finish 20% of the time. After that, it drops down. Master Pupil's next, but he hasn't been playing lately, so I really would be careful if you're going to start him. Unless you see it confirmed by Eclipse, I wouldn't start him, just because you don't want to lose a whole player worth of points.
Or
Make sure
2
you check
players
it-
worth of points if your
Yep.
if your name happens to be starts with a Y.
Yes. But so we look at all those little details that are there, and I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it because Tim's going to disagree with me. I'm going to call it for top tier, and I'm going to call it 5-4. And yes, I can hear several players going at me, laughing at me, because Tim and I just tend to like 5-4. This will be 5-4, 5-3 for top tier, primarily because I think this team has been growing consistently. They've said in their interviews, Pompous has said it, that Rude sees them all like a MMO game. They're all at rank 1 at the beginning of the season. Now they're rank 5, 6, maybe 7. But they've been improving every time they play. The one match I'd say they probably didn't improve in is when Apex smashed their teeth in, but Apex has been doing that to everybody. And I'm willing to bet Rude and the team learned something from that. So we have to watch how things will go up. I like them in this match. I think it'll be interesting too if Eclipse drop points, this whole league gets a lot more interesting.
The whole thing, it's weird.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be fascinating. But I think it's a case of how quickly Ledef can be implemented to the full effectiveness of his skill level. Because guys, he's one of the top 5 players in the league. He just is. They need to get him to hit the ground running. Because if they don't, Tim, what are your thoughts? What do you think the score will be in this match?
You already know. It's gonna be 5-4. It's gonna be favor. It's gonna be in favor of Eclipse. I honestly can't. I think the top tier can. They can beat Eclipse, but will they? It's another story. Both top tier and Eclipse are coming off of a win. So I'm calling it 5-4 for obvious reasons. Okay. As for what players, I'll probably change this later.
Before we get to players, Tim, what is your thoughts on the Ledef situation? Will he find his feet quickly enough? You think quick enough?
I think so. It's not. It's it's. How do I say this? Ledef is one of the players that does good no matter what team he goes to. He shine. It's not because it's not that he shines because the rest of the team is a bunch of burnt out light bulbs. It's he shines because everybody else makes him shine brighter.
Absolutely.
And the rest of Eclipse, well, I just mixed up my metaphors with the lights out thing. Is going to help him. It's going to help him shine. Wow, facepalm.
No, that makes sense. You're essentially saying that with the team built around him, he will be even better than he was on 07. Just to use a quarterback analogy, and Tim is a Bears fan, so he'll appreciate this one. Okay. It's the old Troy Aikman argument. Is Troy Aikman, because you're a Bears fan, right, Tim? Football?
Yes.
All right.
Troy Aikman in Chicago. How can I not be?
I know there's a law or something. If you followed football back in the 90s, Troy Aikman, people call him the best quarterback ever. He really wasn't. He had the best offensive line ever, which gave him up to 5 seconds more time to make throws and catches and everything. This is where Ledef could be successful because he goes to these guys. He's going to have fantastic players around him, and that's not knocking 07. But you can make the argument definitively that Eclipse has better players right now and has better results than 07 does. So to put someone like Ledef in that situation, which is kind of designed for a player to step up and score a lot of damage, like Vetro did. It may not be tailored for him, but it's definitely a situation where he could take full opportunity of. You think that's a better analogy, Tim?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I still like the lights thing, but whatever.
But this is the match to tune in and watch. It's going to be at 5:30 Pacific time tomorrow. Make sure that you watch it because this is what's going to be fascinating. Because it can get so incredibly messy. I don't think Eclipse is going to run the table. I don't think Top Tier will run the table, but you never know, and it's fun to see how that plays out. Map picks. Those are going to be so crucial in how this turns out. The bans, who's not banning, this is going to be fun, guys. So make sure you tune in for that. Put at least 6 guys, if not all 7, in this match. I think that's a safe bet. The second match of the evening is Rival versus Apex.
Right.
Yeah. We were trying to find this graphic. If you guys have ever seen the first Avengers movie, that moment when Loki tries to start talking at Hulk and Hulk grabs him and starts smashing him into bits, or any footage of Hulk in any of the Avengers movies where he's smashing things, that's kind of what Apex does to the whole league right now. They level them. There's nothing left, and they do so quickly and efficiently. And we're talking the times that they've played in. They've had matches last under 30 minutes because they've decimated people that quickly.
Yeah, I forget what match it was. I believe we all believed it was going to go longer, and we're sitting at the intermission screen like, yeah, the next battle's going to be in 15 minutes, and I'm like, man, what am I going to do for 15 minutes? But
Yeah, no. It's yes. One of the things too is to Rival would need to pull every cat out of every bag and launch them ballistically for a chance. They would have to find a way to tie together and just play at the top. We all know how good this team can be. They're full of veterans. Yeah, I think you would need to see Rival come out of the blue and just nail every single opportunity to go to 5-3, let alone to go to win this match.
oh man, Jay Smooth would be so happy.
Well, everyone would be. Exodus, Zakume, Commander J. These guys are all legends, in my opinion. As a big fan of WGLNA, but this is not their year. They have not been able to find that second move that Randall Ruko Helcom talks about. They haven't been. Once they start their strats and they get the advantage, they can't find a way to put the other team away. The organic struggles are there.
It's like they get the hot potato and then they don't know where to throw it.
More along the lines is they get the enemies on the rope and they don't know how to get the killing blow off, or they rush in too quickly, or they haven't practiced it, which and every bit of negative karma in the universe has seemed to hit them. They have bounces at the wrong times. RNG rears its ugly head on more than one occasion. But it's a safe bet this will be 5-0, 5-1 for Apex. I write for TankWarRoom.com. I cover the WGLNA beat and do some other things. But one of the things that I found is it's hard to use words like decimate, dominate, destroy, annihilate, pin to the mat. You're running out of adjectives to describe the level of play of Apex versus everybody else. That's the strength of Apex. Rival, on the other hand, I keep trying to find ways to because this team is incredibly talented. Tesla is fantastic. Executus is a great player, but this just isn't their season. They need to figure out a way to retool and re-up and figure out what needs to be done for them to get back into the race of things.
No, it would be lovely, man. Can you imagine if we were just talking about the upset if top tier beat Eclipse? Can you imagine the upset if Apex came out too confident and got beaten by Rival? We'd be talking about this for seasons to come.
Well, it would make it, that's all Rival would need to do for the season. It didn't matter that they'd get regulated at the end of the season. They would sit there and go, we did what no one else could do. And what I would be more concerned about is Comps' health. Let's be honest. Or the health of the team if Comps got his hands on anyone. No, Comps is the most professional manager I think out there, hands down, captain out there. But I think he'd burst a blood vessel if Rival beat them. Because the team is capable of so much. Apex is so dangerous.
I'd probably throw my desk. Do the table flip emote.
I'm more of a quieting guy. I take a very long walk with my dog, and so somebody would be happy with it. She'd be happy. I wouldn't be. But we're looking at how things play out. Apex should win 5-0, 5-1. It should be just like before, inside of 30 minutes, maybe 40.
Back to reality. Sorry.
It is back to reality. But make sure you guys tune in this Tuesday. Now, we skipped a portion of the program called Where's Ute? And Tim's thrilled right now. So I'll let Tim find Ute for you guys, because Tim's pretty ecstatic about the situation of Where's Ute. So, Tim, where is Ute right now? What position?
Somewhere way, way back there. I'm at 137. And Ute is down here at 150. So I'm still ahead.
I'm at 187 right now. I picked up some points.
I'm right behind. How can I be right behind Flisick? That's no fair.
Yep.
And Legion of Doom. How did? They're literally both like 5 points ahead of me.
Yeah, it's when we're looking at
Ruko's at
players.
101. That's not fair either.
Who is?
Ruko.
Tim, he's been doing fantasy before fantasy was cool. He's pretty good too. Uh,
I know, but
Crafters,
come on.
Crafters in front of you too. Crafters, someone we know, he's a big fan of WGLNA.
Those dance.
The trick is we have to keep climbing up the ratings. I'm not unhappy because I cracked 200 for the first time this season for me, which I like. It's going to be hard to make room for this match because I don't see many people picking other than the 14 guys playing in the first match, with maybe Ox's exception. I think Ox wouldn't be a bad pick if you want to go outside that box because you never know what can happen. And Ox has just been on a tear. Right now, if you were to ask me who the most definitive player, best, if you will, in a WGLNA, I would pick Ox. I think that's a safe pick, just out of how strong a player he's been. And someone could say, what about fantasy points and what about this? From what I've seen, I would pick Ox right now. That's my opinion right now. We just finished match day 11. But I think he's so key and integral to Apex and been such a boon to them that's why I pick him. But keep that in mind if you're picking your fantasy team, but you could also just pick 4 on one side and 3 on another. I recommend picking the 4 out of the team that you think will win, because that generally is
So
what
you know who I
happens.
pick?
Yeah. Tim's probably, Tim will have Ledif. That's an easy one, and he'll have Photo. And you'll probably have T1, though I'm not 100% sure on T1.
Yes.
Okay.
On T1. Of course I have T1.
I'm probably going to take Tigers over T1 this time just to see how that feels. But I'm probably going to have Photo and Ledif as well. And again, we don't know yet. We're going to wait till tomorrow and see what else pans out and look at the rosters because suddenly Master Pupil's in. I can bet you money Tim's going to rethink and I'll rethink too.
Yes, I will.
So because there's a lot of things going on. So with that said, keep that in mind for your fantasy. Keep in mind as well that we're coming down to the last series of matches. We're down to 2 matches a night. Which
Racer. Like mostly rival, right? The one person who still who will pick someone from rival, and rival upsets in our fantasy world, and he upsets, and they beat Apex. That one person will immediately go from place 1200 something to like 200.
yeah, pretty much. We're maybe not. They'll make a big jump. I mean, the largest jump I've seen in the history of fantasy is I saw someone who was around the 700s jump up and break the top 100. And I think that might have been Crafter last season when he won the night and got his Type 59 for winning the night.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, he had the perfect lineup too. This was one off from me.
He was one off. He was one player off. Well, no, he was brilliant. No, don't take that away from him, Tim. He was absolutely brilliant that night.
I'm joking.
But with you're still in it. And guys, even if you're 1400th, I have a friend who's 1480 something. I told him you keep competing because you're going to win for that night and for that week. Because you win for that night and week, you get gold, and that's not something to sneeze at. So make sure that you're staying in there. Make sure that you're throwing your names up for fantasy. And Tim and I'll keep reminding you. But get your picks in. Get your picks in before 5:30. I recommend before 5, just so there's no issues that you're done early. I have mine on by 4 normally.
You pay attention to this part.
At the end of the day, guys, enjoy the matches. If you have questions, there's moderators in there that'll happily answer your questions. If you're new to esports, say you've just Google searched it and found us, welcome. We're a community. Without a community, we don't have a show. Right. It's kind of really important to Tim and I. We're supporters of World of Tanks, meaning we want to see this grow and continue to do better. We are opinionated individuals when it comes to WGLNA. We wouldn't have the show if we didn't have our opinions, that's for sure. And if you have any questions, hit us up either at our Twitters, which are around here somewhere.
You're pointing to it, and then mine's over here. If I can.
And underneath,
do that, yeah, right there.
When Tim gets the YouTubes out, make sure that you go underneath, read the descriptions, because he'll have all of the important links down below that you guys need to. Fantasy link, where to go to watch the streams, everything good like that. We're trying to help you guys enjoy WGLNA as much as you possibly can. Through fantasy is the best way to do it, I'd say. But enjoy it, because we've only got a few more weeks left. Because looking at it right now, we have the match days that we have remaining in the schedule right now is after Tuesday, we only have 6 match days left.
Only 6?
Yep.
Man, that went by so fast.
The last match day before playoffs is Tuesday, March 7th. That'll have Rival versus Top Tier and 07 versus Eclipse. So those could be really critical matches at those points. More the latter than the former. More '07 versus Eclipse than top tier versus rival. But each, if you look at the matches coming up next Thursday, you have Eclipse versus Dare, another big match.
Right.
Valence versus Rival, another big match. But that one's at the bottom of it. The following Tuesday, February 21st, Aquatic M60s versus '07, a massive match for both of those teams. Valence versus Dare. If Dare's in second place, they're going to need those points, and Valence needs every single point they need. They can even get to the playoffs. Then you have February 23rd. You have '07 versus Rival, Eclipse versus Valence, and Valence might be desperate. Then you never know what the team's going to do when they're desperate. Tuesday, February 28th, you have Top Tier versus Apex. I want to watch that because that could give you an idea what's going to happen in the finals. And then you have Dare versus Aquatic M60s. Again, what's going to happen in the playoffs, the finals. These are previews of what could happen there. Apex versus Dare, same thing again. Aquatic M60s versus Valence. Again, we get Valence might be desperate for a win.
Right.
It's going to be fascinating. All remaining matches, and we get 2 matches a night, so you're not going to miss anything anymore. Yay! And that's going to be fun. Yep. So throughout the rest of this month of shortened month of February, make sure you tune in. We've got 4 match days, 5 match days in February, and then 2 in March. Then we hit the playoffs. Then the playoffs hits. I would highly recommend. They haven't officially announced yet where the finals will be. Look.
Officially.
Well, no. We don't know, Tim.
No, we don't.
Where the finals are going to be. And because we don't know, we're not going to make any assumptions because I don't want to make an assumption and have someone say, I booked a ticket because Ted said so. No, that's bad. No. We don't know yet. So when it gets announced, trust me, Tim and I will shout it from the highest hills and lowest valleys and all the rest of that stuff. But we really want you guys to come out. Come to a final. I've been to 4 finals. Tim went to 1 and he got to a finals party because they didn't do the finals in person.
No, but I got to meet Meathead and Captain Judo and Esper Charm and yeah. I had a
Tim,
blast.
your head's gonna explode when you go to a final now. Your head.
Thank you everybody for stopping by. Unfortunately, I had to drop out for technical difficulties, but we will be back again next week with more Community WGLNA show. Thank you everybody for showing up. Without you guys, we would not be here. That's the community part of that title up there. And as always, please come enjoy the matches on Tuesday. And thanks for stopping.